we're back. How are things looking? Well, they're looking good. Now, not for my bracket. Maybe not for my bracket. Today is May 2nd. Today, the Rockets and Warriors are going to play game 6. Tomorrow, the Clippers and Nuggets are going to play their game 7. It's going to be bonkers. Where are we standing? All right. First off, let's start the plan right at the beginning. Dallas did beat Sacramento, and Golden State did beat Memphis. I got those right, but Dallas versus Memphis I got wrong. Dallas played like gods against Sacramento and like ass against Memphis. Obviously in Sacramento was like one of the worst performances I had ever seen. It's like if you grabbed Sacramento and we're like, okay, we played our last game of the year, you guys can all go home. And then 3 days later, they're like, hey, wait a minute, we've got a fucking game we gotta play. Like, today. Wake up, Sabonis. Surprise, there's a game today against who? You don't know because it's the morning of. It's Dallas. We have to play Dallas today. I know that we all thought the season was over, but we gotta play a game. That's what the Sacramento Kings looked like. It was the worst game. It was very bad. Dallas against Memphis was pretty bad. But at least, like, I think Anthony Davis scored like 40 or some bullshit like that. PJ Washington scored 0. He scored 0 points. What was wrong with him? There is something wrong with him. Something like physical. I swear he's hiding like a broken index finger or some shit. He can't shoot. He can't do shit. Whatever. Not the point of the video. We got a lot to cover. PJ Washington being a no-show. One of my favorite players in the whole league, by the way. PJ Washington. He's like my second favorite player. I'm a PJ Washington fan. This season, before this season, early on in this season, when Luka Doncic was terrible for us in the first like 10 days, not terrible. He was just not really very good. I was yelling PJ's team, and I was actually saying that before the season even started. PJ's team. I was saying that in the playoffs last year. I was going, PJ's team. PJ would do something badass. I'd be like, PJ's team. It's PJ's team, actually. PJ's our number one. He's our ace. He pitches on opening day. He's our game one of the World Series, baby. PJ's team. No. Something was wrong. Either he's hiding some, like, injury, and he needs time to take off, but he can't because of how shit the team is, how injured the team is. They're just like, no, dude. We don't care that you have a broken index finger and a broken middle finger and a broken ring finger. We don't care that you broke 3 fingers and are not wearing a cast on it. Go out there and play and score 0 points. Either he's hiding an injury or it's certainly not PJ's team, bro. And I actually believe more that he's bullshitting and hiding some injury. Anyway, it didn't matter. Did I give a count on Thunder Dallas? They're below? I have no fucking clue. 1% chance of upset. Yeah, it didn't matter. I was wrong about both the last seeds. I thought Chicago would beat Atlanta or Orlando. I thought Orlando, they have no offense, bro. Anyway, the Thunder, they advanced, and I don't need to say shit about that. I think they're going to beat whoever they play, but it hasn't been decided yet. We're going to Game 7. Nuggets Clippers. How do I feel? I said it was going to be 4-2 Nuggets, but the Clippers have been weird. I'm gonna be honest with you. The Clippers. I'm gonna put this down right here, pointing at the one we're talking about. The Clippers have been weird this series. Denver has been like kind of what you'd expect. Um, an inconsistent Jamal Murray, where sometimes you're like he's the goat, he's the motherfucking goat, and sometimes you're like he's Russell Westbrook is the second best player on their team. Sometimes you feel that way. That's been the problem all year for Denver, and it kind of feels that way. But the Clippers have been weird. I think what happened. Here's what I think. I think in game one, you got. How do I start this? I think James Harden right now is the type of player where you're gonna get like 2 good games out of him per series. Because he's old and he's tired and having a good game is exhausting in this league. Playing well is fucking exhausting, bro. And when you get old, it's like, okay, I can like obviously I'm going to be able to play in the next one, but I'm tired. That took a lot of energy. That's what I think James Harden is at. And in game 1 you had that, but Kawhi, it's like somebody it's like nobody reminded him that when you play in Denver, you get less oxygen. That's what it looked like in game 1. In game 1 it looked like he was just exhausted. He was just like, wow, I can't move. He was so non-there in the second half. And that altitude thing is real, bro. Sometimes it hits players and you're like, okay, I think that's the altitude. I think the altitude surprised Leonard. I mean, it was his first playoff game in a bajillion years, which would be, of course, the number one reason why he looks tired, or why he was too hyped up, or he used too much energy before the game even started. His heart was racing for too long before the game even started, bro. But the oxygen level doesn't help. So his conditioning is already, he's not been in a playoff series, blah, 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 blah. So I think that's why he wasn't great. And Harden was good in game 1. And then he was not really important again until game 6. Not really. Like, he was important. He was a good player on the team, but he was like, I don't know. He's just dribbling, going to work, I guess. It's good. He can hit like 3 threes in a row out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, James Harden, oh. But Kawhi showed up in game 2, so they won game 2. Kawhi was not there in game 1, they lost game 1. Kawhi showed up in game 2. For sure. That was insane. It looked like he was like, okay. Now, he looked exhausted at the end. But before going in, he was like, okay, I get it now. The oxygen difference. I can predict that this experience is going to happen, so that when this experience does happen, I'm prepared for it, and I can just like be like, yeah, we knew that was going to happen. We're powering through it. I don't know about you, but he looked like mentally drained. Mentally and physically drained at the end of game 2. Now he still like got up and was like doing all this stuff, but that's because he like remembered. He was like, "Oh yeah, I got to do all that bullshit." But my heart can but he had his hands on his knees and he looked like he had like blacked out that game. He was so focused and intensely focused on that game that like when it was over, it looked like he was like came out of a trance, bro. It was crazy. I got a text. Breaking news. I'm running for office later. Give me 50,000 signatures. How about you go fuck yourself? I got a text. He came out of a trance in game 2, and he was like not great in like 3, 4, and 5. I feel like 7 will be interesting. I feel like he's not gonna match that game 2. I think that game 2 will be the best game of his post hiatus, whatever, like in long period of injury. That's going to be the best game of his career after that. It'll be the second playoff game of his career after that, will be his best game after that. Where he was just completely in the zone, bro. He was in the zone as fuck. And I think in game 6 he looked like he was actually like recovered a little bit from how exhausting that was. How draining that was. To be that good in game 2, probably better than he even needed to be. But it was still like, fuck this. I'm not losing this game. I'm going to town. That he was so focused in that game. So it's been a weird one. The Clippers, they play tonight. No, tomorrow. They play tomorrow night. What do I think? I wonder if the audio... I've got my head resting on the... Hello. I know that's the shadow of my face. That's my chin. Anyway. Nuggets, it's been a weird series, but I'm going to go Clippers. I think I'm going to pick the Clippers to win tomorrow night in Denver. I think Denver loses 2 consecutive Game 7s at home. Now, they still got tons of excuses, right? They fired their coach like a fucking week and a half ago, bro. What was that, like 2 weeks ago? They fired their head coach. They made Jokic the head coach, I guess. Anyway, Clippers. This, I feel like, is the same 4-1. I feel like maybe you get one GOAT Kawhi game, but he can't do it. And maybe he has like a couple GOAT Kawhi games, and it doesn't matter. The Thunder's going to win the series. I don't know which one I want to see more. Right? Which one do I want to see more versus the Thunder? Would I enjoy more a Nuggets matchup where the 2 MVPs are playing against each other, and like before the game on court they announce which one of them won the MVP, and then they have to play against each other? What if they say whoever wins game 1 wins the MVP? That would be genius. That's what I would do if I was Emperor. I'd be like, you know what? You guys are actually so close on the MVP. We're leaning Shea. But we're this game, this one-on-one, we want to make game 1 have a crown at stake. And you bring in a big fake crown and you put it over there. You hang it from the fucking scoreboard, just like physically a crown tied with a rope, hanging from the scoreboard above the court. That's hype. Nuggets versus Thunder. But at the same time, I don't give a fuck about the Nuggets. I like the Clippers more. I like Russell Westbrook. I cheer for him, but I don't really give a shit about the Nuggets. I'm not really sitting there rooting for the Nuggets. I think the main reason is that Jokic doesn't care either, which makes it easier for me not to care. Like, his outward attitude is, I don't give a fuck. I want to go hang out with my horses. This is all pedantic. I'm going to pop off like once. You know that one time he hit the buzzer, the game winner, half-court 3 to beat the Warriors? And I think it was the Warriors, I don't care. And he like popped off. He like actually ran up the court screaming. Every single commercial break ends with like a little montage of like, oh, we're coming back to the NBA. Here's a little montage of iconic NBA shots real quick for the like 10 seconds of shots. Like, just be like, we're back in the NBA. They include like some shots of fucking Oscar Robinson or some bullshit. The Jokic shot is always that play because it's the only time he was ever like popping off. And they like popping off, but they like showing that shit. People screaming is like really important to them. But every other time in his existence, his outward appearance is, I don't give a fuck. This is ridiculous. Come on. Now he cares about winning, of course, but he's like, yeah, I'm above this, kind of. You can see that I'm above this, and you kind of fucking can, because he's the GOAT. He's the best player I've ever watched. He's been the best player I've ever watched for like the 3 seasons I've watched basketball. And it's like, jeez. Like, I started watching the season he won the championship with Jamal Murray in like the craziest playoff duo of all time. Why am I talking about him? Well, because he doesn't care. That's right. That's why I like the Clippers more. Now, Kawhi isn't going out there being like, hey, please root for me. But they don't make a point of saying I don't care. So it makes it a little bit easier for me to root for them. Not like I respect Jokic for it, and I kind of like Jokic. But I don't. He doesn't need it. Whatever. I'm not going to root for him. Westbrook, I'll root for. If it's Nuggets Thunder, I think I might root Nuggets. I might root for the Nuggets. To be honest with you, I might root for the Nuggets if it's Nuggets Thunder. If the Clippers, dude, the Clippers are not going to win. I mean, if they beat the Thunder, I might be convinced that they can beat Cleveland or Boston. I think the second round is going to be bonkers. The second round of the playoffs is always fucking the best. Second round of the playoffs. Here we come. So I'm really looking forward to this. I didn't have a star here, but I'm adding one star. That series is goated. It's fucking weird, though. The buzzer beater dunk. Powell, like... Jamal's on-offs. Kawhi has been... Dude. On-off. It's been a crazy series. Anyway, Lakers-Wolves? Fuck yes, dude. That's what I want to start off by saying. Fuck yes. Oh my god, I was rooting against the Lakers hard. Which is kind of interesting because I was a Mavs fan. Last year, I kind of grew up in Dallas. The 2011 playoffs I watched live. Which is weird because I didn't watch basketball at all. I didn't watch basketball at all before that, and I didn't watch basketball at all after that, really. But that series, that season, I knew, I could feel in the air that something crazy was happening. I was living in Frisco or something like that. And so I did watch that. That's the only basketball I watched. I didn't watch basketball again until the bubble. Alright. But I'm a Mavs fan. I was a Mavs fan. I still kind of am a Mavs fan. So this one, it was, as you could expect, and as I'm sure you've been communicated to and of from other Mavs fans or former Mavs fans, this is a complicated series. As a Mavs fan, this is as complicated as a series could possibly get. As any fan of a sports team, I could not imagine a more complicated series that didn't involve my own team. Or my own team. Right? It's not like I traded Brett Favre to the Vikings and I'm in the playoffs, it's Green Bay versus the Vikings. It's like Green Bay versus Brett Favre right away. This is in the same season. Luka Doncic. The last time he was the last time we were in the playoffs, he was beating the Wolves. He was calling Gobert a motherfucker. Bro. That was my guy. I was popping off. You can't fucking guard me, motherfucker. Fuck you, Gobert. You know my opinion of Gobert. If you've been watching any of my videos, you know Gobert. I hate Gobert. Any of my NBA videos, at least. Fuck Gobert. So to go into this one, where it's the Wolves with Doncic versus Doncic, but it's Doncic on the fucking Lakers with LeBron, who's old as fuck. He is old as fuck. You can tell he's old. He makes old head moves. He makes old head mistakes. He makes old head decisions. And they all, well, not all of them. No, not all of them. Because Austin Reeves and JJ Redick are not guilty of this. But LeBron and Luka Doncic both have what I call Eli Manning face. Eli Manning, he would like throw an incomplete pass, or there'd be a foul on his somebody on his team, like a holding penalty on his team, or he'd throw an interception or whatever, and he would just have this look on his face of like being completely lost and confused, of just like, I pooped my pants, mommy. Can you change my diaper? Like what? Like he was going. He was like what? He was so confused. And you know, Tom Coughlin was the same way. And you know, a bunch of athletes make that face. Doc Rivers makes that face all the time, just like what, 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 what? I don't understand at all. Except they're not coherent in any way. They're just like looking weird. They look weird. It freaks me out a little bit. But Doncic and LeBron are good at that face, bro. LeBron was flopping on people. He was like grabbing people. In that last game, he was pulling out every single trick he could possibly pull out to somehow scratch out a game against the Wolves. And it did not work. It was 4-1. 4-1, and it was like, you get fucked. It wasn't that close. You guys played like shit. The Wolves missed more 3-point attempts. They missed more 3-point shots than any team has ever missed in a playoff game. I think like the Houston Rockets were number 2 with like 37 in 2000 whatever, where they missed 37 3-point attempts. And you know what? Houston lost. The next 7 teams on that list of most 3-pointers missed in a game, the next 7 teams all lost that game. And then there's the Wolves at number 1 with the most 3-pointers missed in a game in the playoffs. 40 missed threes in the playoffs. And they won the game because that's how shit the Lakers are. Let that fucking sink in. 4-1. Everybody was riding high on the Lakers because their offense, LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves is good enough to just walk over half the teams in the league who don't give a fuck about defense or offense or the game. Like the Chicago, how is that trio gonna like lose to Chicago? I know they did, which is insane. But I, along with most people, picked the Lakers. They were favored by Vegas, and it was 4-1. And I am pumped. Let's go Wolves. Wolves. And I had the Lakers beating the Warriors. And I did not respect this side of the bracket. Let's be clear about that. I did not really respect this side of the bracket at all. We'll see Game 6 of the Warriors. Now, I said whoever wins this series will win in 6 games, and I think it'll be the Warriors. I think dude, I have conspiracy theories about that last Warriors-Rockets game. I have conspiracy theories about it. It was weird. Where the Rockets had like a 30-point lead in the third quarter, and Coach Kerr pulled all of his starters and put the backups in, and for like a whole quarter, the second half of the third quarter and the first half, like most of the fourth quarter, it was the Warriors backups that you've never heard of versus the Houston Rockets starters. And the Warriors almost made a comeback. The lead was like 5 at one point. It's bananas. That game felt really fucking weird. And there are two possibilities here. Okay, possibility 1, that's just how the game played out. Both teams were trying to win. They were giving it their utmost, and it was a weird fucking game. The Rockets were at home and they came out hot and they scored a bunch. And then Kerr wanted to give his old players a rest, so he did. He was quick to do that. I think he said before even the game started that he was like worried about that, or he mentioned the layover, or that the flights were too far, or some shit. Uh, whatever. But the Rockets just came out and couldn't miss. Fred VanVleet is like looking like 2019 Fred VanVleet, or whatever year it was that Kawhi won the championship. Where he was just in that game two. He was like playing like game two versus the Nuggets Kawhi versus like the whole playoffs, and it was over. And everybody lost, and he's the GOAT. Anyway, that's option one. Option one is just that's how the game went. And Kerr was quick to pull his guys, but that's just how the game went. Blah blah blah. Here's option two. Here's conspiracy theory. The Warriors did not give a fuck about winning that game. That's what I think. I think they didn't practice. I think they didn't watch film. I think they took a 3-1 lead and were like, okay, we're going to go on the road versus Houston. And they like just they were like, we're going to take this one off. They're going to use up a bunch of their energy. They're going to use up their good game. Fred VanVleet's going to have his second good game of the series, and we thought he might have 2 good games this series. Şengün's gonna feel like he's the GOAT again. He's gonna be like, I whooped Draymond. Surprise when we come back in game 6 and we're like, we've practiced and we've watched film and we're back to destroying you. That's what I'm afraid of happening tonight. I'm afraid that my conspiracy theory is correct, that the Warriors were like, we're gonna take this game off. We're all tired. We're all old. I could use a break. Let's not take this next one seriously. Now, you might feel like that's the most batshit insane thing you've ever heard, but this is a fact. Usually this is very common way of thinking about things in solo sports, in 1v1. In tennis, there are so many times a guy will like win at the first set, and then he'll be like, okay, this guy's going to have to use up all of his energy winning games the set 2. I'm not going to try to win set 2. I'm just going to try to make him work as hard as I can. I'm going to go for high percentage shots that always go in, but they make him run a lot, and he's going to get tired. I'm going to forfeit my tactical decision making. I'm not going to try to win. I'm going to hit shots that he can return because I want him to run and return them. I'm going to do that first set. Or I'm tired. I'm going to take a break this set. That happens regularly in other sports. Okay? So, I think the Warriors are just like one of the only team sport teams that would ever like have the nerve or the reason to do it. Because they have Curry, who's his main issue the last 2 years has been that he's tired. He's old and he has to do everything for this team. He's the only person on the team who's like good offensively. But now they got Jimmy and it's like, okay, fucking A. And Jimmy's way better than the trio of Curry, Jimmy, and Butler is so much more balanced than the trio of LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves. I don't think you could find a better balance of players than Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green. They're like the perfect trio. It's like something out of a fucking anime or like a trio of D&D characters. They like all perfectly fit each other. You got the big guy who's a contender for Defensive Player of the Year and talks a lot of shit. Then you got Jimmy Butler, who's kind of in the middle, who's clutch and professional and serious and a mature adult. And then you got Curry, who's sort of a quiet sniper, who's quick and is going to do shit all over the place. He's the perimeter, Jimmy's the mid-range, Draymond's the interior. They're perfect. The trio of... The Lakers trio is ass. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what the Lakers are gonna do. I don't know what the Lakers are gonna do. It's gonna be a very. It's gonna be a good TV show. That's for goddamn sure. LA is gonna put on a show, but that might not just be good basketball anymore. So I don't know who's gonna win this, but the Wolves. I think the Wolves beat whichever one of these teams wins. I think if the Warriors come out and destroy the Rockets tonight, and my conspiracy theory was correct. Like, imagine if that's true. Imagine if my conspiracy theory is true. What are the two games that the Warriors lost? They won game one, pretty comfortably. They lost game two because it was the game where Jimmy got hurt. And it looked like you guys were dead and all of our game planning was off and we were having to wing it and Jimmy's gone and suddenly Jalen Green has all this confidence. I wonder why he suddenly got all this confidence. Now that the guy on the other team is gone, now he's suddenly going to score 38 points. And the Warriors lose. And then the Warriors won both games at home. And they looked pretty comfortable. They won without Jimmy Butler in game 3. Somehow they beat the Rockets without Jimmy Butler. Which, if you've watched any of the games, the broadcasters are obsessed with saying shit like, oh, Jimmy Butler, since Jimmy Butler's been back, they've been this best offense, and they've been this best defense, and they've been this many free throw fucking attempts, like anybody gives a fuck. So when Jimmy Butler got hurt, and it was like, okay, they're dead. Everybody was like, the Warriors are dead. They're not going to win without Jimmy. We remember what they were without Jimmy. They sucked. And it's like, well, they sucked over the course of 50 games without Jimmy. But over one game, Curry can be the main guy over one game. And they beat that was the worst game for the Rockets so far. And what's the second game the Rockets win in the series, if my conspiracy theory is true? A game where the Warriors were forfeiting from the beginning. Where Kerr told the press beforehand that he was worried about his guys. Was that after J.J. Redick played his guys the entire last 24 minutes? It's so funny that J.J. walked out. He walked out of the press conference because somebody asked him, insinuated that playing his one lineup over the entire second half was like a young coach, an inexperienced coach thing to do. He was like, are you insinuating that? And then he walked off. That's really fucking funny, because that's exactly what I thought. That's exactly how I felt about it. You know what that reminded me of? And this should be a compliment. What I'm about to say should be a compliment to J.J. Redick, who I think has been great for the Lakers this year. Can you imagine Luka and LeBron with Darvin Ham as their coach? Can you picture that in your brain? It's fucked. No. That's the worst. J.J. Redick has been... I think he's going to be the coach there for a good bit. Unless Nico Harrison was the most right anybody's ever been, I think J.J. Redick has pretty much secured a head coaching job. So here's who I compared him to. When he started his starters for the last 24 minutes, even though they're old and tired already, that to me it reminded me of Joe Mazzulla. And the way Joe Mazzulla, who's the head coach of the Boston Celtics, the championship Yokozuna level Boston Celtics, he's the head coach. When he was like a rookie, he had this thing where he didn't want to call timeouts when his team was getting beat. The other team would have a bunch of momentum and they'd have the hot hand, and Joe Mazzulla instinctively in his brain was like, I'm not going to call a timeout. You pick your own fucking self up. They're picking up the intensity, you pick up the intensity. Pull yourself out of this rut. I don't need to call a timeout. I don't need to sub anybody in. Motherfucker, you're my starting 5. I'm not calling a timeout. That's how much Joe Mazzulla thought about timeouts when he was a rookie. And it was wrong. It was wrong. It was not the right play. And he doesn't do it anymore. He calls timeouts when NBA allow when like he should call timeouts. The other team goes on a really quick 10-0 run. He calls a timeout. He's like, okay, I'll let them pop off a little bit and quiet down and see if that helps. And man, we'll go over a couple. There are a couple things I want to go over. I do have some complaints about the last 4 possessions where they went up, where they scored 7 points in a row, and I took a timeout. And you made me take a timeout. Like he's willing to do that right now. JJ Redick starting his starters for the whole second half felt like that kind of a rookie like attempt. Like just swing. I got to swing. I don't know. I haven't tried it before. It's our only chance. That's what he thought. It's like, I don't trust anybody else on this team. I have this starting 5, Reeves, Luka, LeBron, Rui, and Dorian Finney-Smith. I think that's a fine starting 5. It's small, but it can win you a lot of regular season games. It can get you into the playoffs. It's not going to be what their starting 5 is next year. That's for sure. They have to get a 5. I say they trade Reeves. Reeves is ass. I said this in my preview. My actual take on Reeves was that if Reeves wasn't white, if Reeves was African American or just black, I got a text. If Reeves was not white, it would be, nobody would give that much of a fuck about him. He would be like, eh. He'd be like Gary Trent Jr. Bro, it's like, eh. Who? Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty good. Right? And I'm just pointing out, I don't know why I picked Gary Trent Jr. He scored a bunch of points in that last Bucks game. But it's like, so? Austin Reeves is forgettable. He shorts it. The Austin Reeves is just short it. He's a shorter, bro. He's a shorter. He shorts it. Anyway, I say trade him. If you're the Lakers. But yeah, JJ is not Steve Kerr. That's why I brought this up. Steve Kerr is not going to start his guys the whole game to try to close it out in 4. He's like, no, we'll take it easy going into game 5. They can have game 5, sure, they can have game 5. If the Warriors come out and destroy the Rockets tonight, it will prove that I'm correct. That they didn't give a fuck about game 5. If that is the timeline we live in, then I think the Wolves could have some issues. They did miss 40 fucking 3-pointers versus they shot 16% from 3 in game 5 versus the Lakers. 16%. I'm sorry, the Warriors are going to be better than the Lakers. The Warriors are going to actually show up as a team in the 4th quarter. The Wolves could have some issues. Now, I think I'd still pick the Wolves, but we'll see how Game 6 goes. We're done with the West. The East. You know what happened here? I just forgot about Eric Spoelstra, who I greatly respect. Eric Spoelstra could take any team. He could take the Charlotte Hornets to the play-in tournament. And once you get to the play-in tournament, it's a best of 1. I'm the best coach in this play-in tournament. That's a fucking fact. I know I'm the best coach in this play-in tournament. I might be the best coach in the league. Who are the best coaches in the league? Eric Spoelstra, Steve Kerr, Joe Mazzulla. Guys who have, like, proven. Like, I really, like, the Cleveland coach and stuff is, like, good. I respect him a lot. The Pistons coach I respect, I think is good. But they haven't... Spo has done so much. He's won championships and taken his team to championships with like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo as their only team. As their team. Because they're not quitters. They're well coached. So I forgot about that, and I picked Chicago. Chicago played like ass. They're doomed. They're a doomed franchise. They're never going to be good in the rest of time. Atlanta, I thought Atlanta was like... I thought Trae Young. Dude, I do believe in Trae Young, but it like didn't matter. What is Atlanta gonna do? They have Trae Young and Dyson Daniels, who are both bomb, who are like both awesome. I like both of them, but that's like what the fuck? Is that it? Atlanta, what? What are you gonna What are you gonna trade? I can't think of anything about whatever. Who gives a fuck about Atlanta? So Miami, Chicago again. It didn't matter. 4-0. Cleveland is advanced. The Pacers Bucks. Did I get it right? 4-1, or did the Bucks win 2? Did the Bucks win 1 or 2? Oh no, you're gonna see my login. Oh no, you know everything about my future. Where's the Bucks game? 4-1, so I was right. The Bucks are a joke. Damian Lillard was never going to be able to play well dude, Damian Lillard is the big. Oh, okay, I'm gonna use this part of the fucking podcast to talk about the biggest tragedy in sports. Okay, now I feel like for me personally, there are like a couple options. Dak Prescott overtaking Tony Romo is one of them. The Rangers losing in 2011 and the way they did is one of them. And these are biased, sure. But I like Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard was like my favorite player when I first started watching. When I first started watching in the bubble season, I was like, Damian Lillard's my favorite player. Okay. Him getting traded to the Bucks. Picture Milwaukee Bucks on one hand, like to the left, be like, okay, there's Milwaukee. Your image of Milwaukee, your image of Milwaukee's team and its situation, and then Miami, the Miami Heat on the right. Like, try to image both of those things and just be like, holy fuck, those are different situations. And Damian Lillard is fucked in one, and he's having the time of his life in another. Instead of going to Miami, a city that's like cool and warm and tropical, which is not Portland, it's going to be sunny, it's going to be gorgeous. You're going to be hanging out with Jimmy fucking Butler, who has his own coffee brand. He opened a coffee company in the bubble because like all the other players would come to him for coffee because he was the coffee guy in the bubble. That's why he has a coffee company. That's the kind of guy you play with in Miami. You have Eric Spoelstra as your coach. I just told you, and this was unrelated to Damian Lillard, I just told you that the mistake I made was forgetting about Spoelstra, who's like this. In my opinion, he's the best coach like in the league. He's definitely a top 3 coach in the league. To me, those are the 3 most proven coaches. It's Eric Spoelstra, and then Steve Kerr, and then right now it's like Joe Mazzulla. But Eric Spoelstra for me is the best coach in the league. I forgot about him. Imagine, okay, that's in Miami for Damian Lillard. Okay, so you have Jimmy Butler, Eric Spoelstra, and then, like I already talked about, the city of Miami, which is like banging, I guess. I'm never going there. I'm not allowed to go to Florida. I have a personal vow never to step foot in Florida. But aside from that, Miami looks pretty fun. Especially if you're a rock star, if you're a fucking NBA player, if you're Damian Lillard and Jimmy Butler hanging out. Jimmy Butler wore emo hair for the entire NBA season that year when he got traded to the Bucks. Because what's the other side? On that one hand, you have Miami, the city, the players on your team, and the coach. On the other hand, you have fucking Milwaukee. Milwaukee, bro. I'm about to say some stuff about Milwaukee that is judgmental and is like toxic on maybe, but it's like Milwaukee fucking blows. Milwaukee is just where, dude, when I watch Milwaukee's Bucks games and I get the feeds where it's like the in-stadium feed, every single break there is some soldier getting honored. some soldier or Navy person or cop or whatever getting honored in the Buck Stadium every single time, and it says a lot about the Milwaukee. That's the kind. It's a fucking recruiting town for white soldiers. I'll say it. I'll fucking say it. It's a Copville, bruh. That's where. That's Milwaukee. Okay, the home of the Brewers. It's famous for brewing beer before all the other 40-year-old white guys realized beer was interesting. So that's Milwaukee. And then you have Milwaukee's players who are like Giannis. Okay, Giannis is obviously the big one. But then the other ones, let's go with the less complicated ones. Brooke Lopez, who? The fuck? Who? And then this like other person, who? Those guys are old as fuck and they suck. And then Giannis, who is insane. Giannis is the most workaholic player that I can think of. And now he's the fucking GOAT. He's fucking badass. He's amazing at basketball. I want him on my team. But he's also like I don't want to speak to that man. He's too intense for me. His team is struggling and he's out there yelling about how the towel guy needs to show more commitment. And we need to be better from the towel guy to the top. We need to show more commitment and work harder. He's kind of nutsos, bro. That's my opinion of Giannis. He's a little bit nutsos. That's the teammate. Okay, again. So we have Milwaukee, the town, we've described that. Milwaukee, the teammates, we've described that. The main teammate. Giannis is your main teammate. And then Milwaukee, the coaching situation. Holy Lord above. That's the biggest difference of all of them. I mean, all three of the differences are huge, stark differences. The difference between Miami as a town and Milwaukee as a town is massive. As like almost as big as you can get in the United States. If I'm trying to think of I'm going through some in my brain and it's like those are them. Those are the most different ones. Miami and Milwaukee. Those are not the same. Those are two different, very, very different places, okay? And then the teammates, Giannis and Jimmy Butler. Come on. That's about as different as two players psychologically can get. Now, they're both adults, they're both professionals, and they're both really good at basketball. Right? So they have that in common, but as people, they're very different. They're both very serious, they're both hardworking and all that stuff. But Giannis is like outwardly a workaholic through and through. Giannis Atenta GM. Is that his nickname? Or he's taking charge. The first thing Giannis texts to Damian Lillard after the trade is, let's go win that ring, baby. We got this, baby. Okay, that's the player over there. And then lastly, the coaching situation, which, like I said, is the biggest difference of them all. I forget who their coach even was at the beginning of the season before Doc Rivers got hired. I forget who their coach even was. And they fired him out of nowhere. Dude. They fired him. He was doing well. And who did they hire? Oh my God. Who can I think of that is the opposite of Eric Spoelstra? If I'm sitting there saying that Eric Spoelstra of the Miami Heat is the best coach in the NBA, the coach I respect the most in the NBA, I'm sitting there saying that about Eric Spoelstra. If I'm looking for the exact opposite, who's the coach I respect the least in the NBA? Of all the head coaches I can possibly think of their names, who is the head coach that I respect the least? That's Doc Rivers. Okay, so let's write this fucking down. Let's write this shit down here. Just so we can, Miami. Option one. Miami, the town, the city. Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Buckets. Heat culture. Imagine, like explaining heat culture to somebody from Milwaukee and seeing how they reacted. They're gonna be like, "What the fuck? No days off, bro. We're serious from start to finish, bro. No heat culture. Those games count. Those go on the record. We're trying for those games." All right, Eric Spo. I always forget how to spell his last name, so just Spo. I think it's ELSTRA, but I don't know. I don't give a fuck. Option 2. Let's use a different color. Okay, what's option 2? Milwaukee. Milwaukee. I'm not even gonna. I think that's how you spell it. I don't care. Ugh. Nope. It's funny because I can't go to either of these towns. Like, I've taken a vow never go to anything in Florida. And Milwaukee, I can't ever see myself ever needing to be there, ever. Milwaukee, oh my god. Giannis. Work. That ain't Jimmy Buckets. Heat culture. Brewery culture. Brewer culture. I just coined a term, and I'm sure the people of Milwaukee would like that, actually. Culture. I fucked that up. And who's their coach? Doc Rivers. The worst coach I've ever seen in any major sport. No fucking joke. No fucking joke. The worst. My least respected coach, especially if you say championship winning coaches. I respect Tom Coughlin more than I respect him. Way more. Tom Coughlin was like not that bad a coach. He just had baby face. He had Eli Manning face. That's why I don't like him that much. But Doc Rivers, like, look at these two options. Oh, let's add this. A surprise. Everybody being excited for you. I won't write that down. That's a little bit more psychological, but it's a surprise. Wanted. That's where he actually wanted to go. Everybody knew he wanted to go to Miami. They were both saying it. Jimmy Butler and Damian Lillard were like, "Oh, let's go for that." It was like Miami. This is why Damian Lillard is the biggest tragedy in modern sports. In the last 5 years of sports history. Okay? My favorite player. My favorite fucking player, bro. He was my favorite player at the time. I was so excited for Dame in Miami. I was like, that's perfect. Dame is going to take it seriously. But it's going to be have Damian, Eric Spoelstra. The difference between Eric Spoelstra and Doc Rivers is just about the biggest difference. Dude, if I was Dame, I would suck. If I was Dame, I'd be bad at basketball because I'm just so blindsided by hell, which is Milwaukee. So that's what the Bucks Pacers series was like. Holy shit, it was bad. Way to go, Giannis, scoring 80 bajillion points a game. It doesn't matter. Pistons, Knicks. Now, I picked the Pistons. Something is wrong with the Knicks, but you know what? I let the fact that the Knicks were 0-8 versus the best teams convince me that there was something wrong. Now, I still think there's something wrong with the Knicks. This series, Knicks-Celtics, is going to be bonkers, in my opinion. It's not bonkers in terms of action-packed or anything. Where the fuck is my other pen? It might not be that great a series. Maybe Boston wins it 4-0. I don't know. I don't think they're going to win it 4-0. I definitely don't think they're going to win it 4-0. I think it's going to go to 6 or 7. Knicks. But it's going to tell me a lot about these teams. The Pistons are young, and they got younged. That move, Jalen Brunson, okay. Here's what I want to say about Jalen Brunson. First off, I want to get the caveat out of the way. Yes, I know he's the king of grifting right now. Jalen Brunson shamelessly grifting the whole time. Like the way LeBron James was grifting in the fourth quarter or in all of Game 5. Brunson has been doing that hard this series. He has been grifting his ass off hard. He's been using every old man trick in the book. And it's been hard to watch. It has been hard to watch. It makes me not want to really root for Brunson very much. But at the same time, he has been cooking the fuck out of them. He's been cooking the fuck out of them. Now, it's to be expected. Hardaway Jr. and Tobias Harris are their second and third best players. Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley. Like, all these players are like, yeah, those are... I mean, those could be on my team, and I wouldn't be too upset. Kind of. I mean, they're not terrible players. I'm not going out there wanting Tobias Harris on my team. My team, the Mavericks, just traded away Tim Hardaway Jr. because he was too expensive, and he is still too expensive, but he's not the worst. You know, he's not Jackson fucking Hayes. Alright, I'd rather have Tim Hardaway Jr. than Austin Reeves, personally. Anyway... I doubted the Knicks. I thought the Knicks... I did kind of think that Brunson was going to get hurt, and he did get hurt. But he just came back the same game. With the NBA nowadays, if somebody goes down and they really look fucked up, you have no idea if they're fucked up or if they're totally dead. They could be... You don't know. They might just get up and score 30 points on your team. Like Jalen Brunson did. And Jalen Brunson, he cooked Thompson at the end of that game. Did you see what he did? His play? Did you see his move? Let's bring up that move. You can't see this right now. I know. I'll get it. Brunson, game winner. Let's mute this.
Bridges to toss it in. Flat.
All right. Let's analyze this play. Let me get rid of that stuff. Watch what he does. So he's just waiting. Can you hear me? I swear to God, if this thing has muted me. Hello, hello. No, that's fine. I just muted the audio of the desktop, which there was no audio before anyway. Oh, but I do have to do that. Let's analyze how Jalen Brunson tricks this move. He said, "Sit down, kid. Sit down, kid." He's standing there. He's just standing there right now, but he's like putting his hand on him and giving him a little bit of a push with this hand. Now, this hand is going to become very, very important to this play. In fact, it's kind of the key to this play. Look at his hand. There's Brunson's hand. You can see it's all the way extended. He's arm barring Thompson. I'm pretty sure this is Thompson. I'm like 95% sure it's Thompson, but I'm not going to double check because I don't care. But he's basically arm barring Thompson and sort of pushing Thompson that way so he can get around him. Right? And Thompson's quick. He's not going to get taken down by that. But they're running, and Thompson's like, "I'm quick, motherfucker. You can't cycle me out. What, you think you're just going to like push me to the side and you're just going to get away with that? I'm going to stay in front of you. Your arm bar is not going to like be stronger than my whole body pushing that way. Like maybe you'll get a boost of speed." That's what Thompson's thinking. I don't know if it's a Sar or a Men. But Brunson is pushing him that way. So, now Brunson sees him take this overstep, and what does he do? No, he doesn't. He knows he's going to do this move. He knows this move is happening. But what does he do? He stops on a dime and pulls his hand away. The 20, 30 pounds of pressure that was being pushed that way from Jalen's muscles trying to strong arm him behind himself Suddenly they're gone. And Thompson falls forward because his balance is off. His internal gyroscope and his balance had adjusted to this armbar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 22 frames of pushing him that way. That's enough for your body to react, but not really enough for your body to like react to reacting and be like, okay, we got to recover ourselves in case he steps on us. The average human reaction speed is like 15 frames. And he just did it in, he gave him 22 frames of push and then was like, see ya. Stopped on an absolute dime. And wipes him out. Sends him to the graveyard. Kablam. And they all run down the court before the timeout gets called, and then the timeout, and they're like, fuck yeah. And he's looking at his hand, because he's the GOAT. That's Jalen Brunson, motherfucker. Okay? That's Jalen Brunson. Now, let's compare that. Let's just, like, compare that visually with Luka Doncic. It's like, I know Luka Doncic is injured and he's dealing with stuff and blah, blah, blah. But Brunson's injured and dealing with shit. He's like broken his ankle twice. The floor literally gave way underneath his feet. It was like weird. It's like a conspiracy theory about it. Look at him move though. Doncic can't move. I watched every game of the Lakers Wolves series, and Doncic can't move. He can't move. He doesn't have a step. He just sort of hangs out up here and then sort of like dribbles the ball with his ass to his opponent and is like, somebody would come over and double team me, please. I'll shoot a 3. I'm pretty good at those. I'm like 38% on those. That's pretty good. It's not good enough where like you have to really care that much. It's not 41%. Then you got to double team me. You got to be scared of me out here. But he's Luka Doncic. He can't move. And then here's Brunson. This is an opportunity for me to do a little bit of a brag on what is one of the craziest takes I've ever had, and which turned out, in my opinion, I'm making maybe a preemptive call, but I made the preemptive call at the time, so I might as well keep making it now. It's looking, just because things are turning in my direction and my preemptive call is looking good, doesn't mean I'm going to change my mind and be like, oh, suddenly, no, I'm going to brag about it. 3 years ago, or however long it was, the Mavs were playing the Phoenix Suns in the conference semifinals, and we had Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson as our two main ball handlers, and it was like fucking great. It was fucking awesome. And I remember in my head watching that series and thinking to myself, I asked myself this question, and I gave a serious, honest, and committed answer. The question was this: who would I rather build my team around? If I suddenly had to build my team around either Luka Doncic, and remember, this is like 2022 Luka Doncic. So he hadn't had the finals run, and he also hadn't had all this injury, whatever. 2022 Doncic. We were just about to score 80 bajillion points on the Suns in the next game. I think it was like game 6 I talked about this. To myself, yeah. I said, who would I rather build my team around? Jalen Brunson or Luka Doncic? And you know what I decided? I said Brunson. I honestly was like, I would rather build my team around Brunson. That's one of the craziest things I've ever like been like, that's my take. That's my serious take. My serious, honest take. Okay, Mavs fans now, let's look. I watched this guy, who was a Mavs guy, and now he just does most NBA stuff, but he he's like, no, he said the other day that he would rather start a team around Doncic than Anthony Edwards, bro. Anthony Edwards. Anthony motherfucking Edwards. You'd rather start a team around Doncic now than Edwards? Okay, that's how crazy, and like that's apparent. That's like what he has to say. He's pressured into saying it. I was in 2022. No, yeah, 2022, and I was saying I'd rather start my team around Brunson than Doncic. And don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against Doncic. Last season was goated. He should have won the MVP for sure, guaranteed. It's stupid that they gave it to Jokic last year. But the higher ups don't like him as much as the fans do, even as much as I do. But regardless, so for the last couple years, I've been thinking to myself, I've been like monitoring them both. And a lot of times I'll be watching Brunson and I'll think of the question again. I'll be like, I don't know who's going to win a championship first. Because that kind of would define it. That would answer the question definitively more, but not entirely definitively. Like if Luka had won last year against the Celtics, which we could have done, I'm tired of this narrative where it's like, we had no chance against the Celtics. We can forgive that Luka completely quit on the team because we had no chance. I mean, come on, we all know we weren't going to beat the Celtics. I bet you Nico Harrison believed that team could beat the Celtics. I bet you Jason Kidd believed that team could beat the Celtics, but it's pretty obvious Doncic didn't believe it. He was like, we made it to the finals, so I look around, this team's not beating the Celtics. And so we got gentlemen swept as shit. The exact same thing happened when the Mavs played the Warriors in 2022. After they whooped the Suns, and I was like, I'd rather have Brunson than Doncic. Doncic kind of quit versus the Warriors. And people still say the same fucking line. They say, we had no chance against the Warriors. And I believed that at the time, and it's true, really. The Warriors were like having a magical season, just like the Celtics were. The Warriors still had Steph, Clay, Draymond, and now they had somebody who was being as big an offensive, like, being as important and beneficial to the team as, like, a little bit less than Durant, but, like, huge. Jordan Poole's, that year with Golden State, he was the GOAT. Everybody was like, he's the future of our franchise. And then it turns out he's a fucking fool. But hey, whatever. He wasn't a fool that year. He was locked in, and he was a rookie or whatever. I got another fucking text. Hello. It just says hello. Great. Go fuck off. You're just gonna say hello with no punctuation? Asshole. He quit. Doncic quit against the Warriors. And people give the same excuse. We had no chance against them. It makes sense. You know, we never had a chance, blah, blah, blah. But he fucking didn't try. He was laughing. He was chumming it up with the Warriors. We were too friendly with each other. I had another, like, a YouTuber be like, give the theory that one of the reasons Luka lost, that we lost to the Warriors, is because the Warriors didn't piss Luka off. That's why we lost to the Warriors, because they didn't get Luka riled up. But I think it's more just because Luka didn't believe that we could win. But anyway, that was my take. We were playing the Suns, and I said I'd rather build around Brunson than Doncic. And now look at the difference in gameplay between the two of them. Okay, on the one hand, you have Brunson, who's also compromised. And he's making that move and just decimating. That's better than the move on Gobert. Doncic's move on Gobert was just like, I'm going to go left, I'm going to go right a little bit, and then I got to back up. And Gobert is too old or too slow to do anything about it. Now, it was a great move. It was one of my favorite moves. When I think of the current Mavs season, the song Brazil goes through my head, and I watch that move, and I feel like I've been lobotomized. We traded Luka fucking Doncic to the goddamn Lakers. I think of that move, motherfucker. You can't guard me. And you know what my favorite thing about that move, about that play was? Luka Doncic made the move. He killed Gobert. He killed the team. Mavs won that series in 2 games. And he popped off. He yelled "motherfucker" at him, which I liked. And then when he turned around and his team was coming out to pop off, you know what Doncic did? He said, "No, wait. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Calm down. We still got game left to play." That was what impressed me the most. I don't think Nico Harrison saw that kind of thing when it happened. I think Doncic did that kind of thing a lot that postseason. I gave him a lot of props. But I don't think Nico Harrison saw that. But look at the difference. Doncic can't move. Do you think Doncic is going to look like that next year? Because he's like healthy? No. Doncic is going to play for Slovenia in EuroLeague. He's going to go play for Slovenia. He has made it abundantly clear that he will play for Slovenia until he's dead. He cares more about that than the NBA, which props to him. Fine. I don't have any issues with that. But it does, make him less rested and able to repair from injuries. He plays year-round, bro. And he's always the number one ball handler. I compare Luka Doncic, and I'm just going on a ramble about Luka Doncic. I compare Luka Doncic to the 2000s MLB Japanese pitcher. Okay, a pitcher who was a starter in Japanese baseball in high school and in middle school and in the Japanese leagues. And he transfers over to the MLB. You want to know what always happened in the 2000s, back when they weren't smart about it? Japan, I mean. And I know I'm kind of insulting Japan right there, but you'll kind of agree with me. You know what happened to all the pitchers? They had to get Tommy John surgery because they fucked up their arms. Why were their arms fucked up? Well, let's see. Maybe because high school teams only have one starting pitcher sometimes. During tournaments, the high school pitchers will pitch up to 600 pitches a week. In the MLB, average start in the MLB is less than 100 pitches. And you start once every 5 games. It's like a hard rule. You start once every 5 games. It's a hard, unwritten rule. Technically, you could have 4 or 6 starters, but the unwritten rule is 5. You get 5 starters. So you pitch like once every week and a half. And it's like less than 100 pitches on average. Okay, and here are these Japanese pitchers who grew up in high school and in college and in the Japanese leagues pitching like 600 pitches a week. Their usage rate was beyond belief. And so they'd come to the MLB and they'd pitch great for a season maybe, and then they'd have to get Tommy John surgery, and then they'd come back, and then you'd get like a real pitcher. They'd come back from Tommy John surgery, and it's like, okay, here we go. Now we get the real pitcher we signed. Like, this is what they're going to be for the rest of time. That is what Luka Doncic reminds me of. He's been playing professional basketball since he was like 13. Which means he's been playing basketball since he was like 3 probably, and been playing serious basketball since he was probably 6 or 7. By the time he was 6 or 7, his parents were like, "You're going to be a basketball goat. Go do basketball stuff." Now we're playing it seriously. So basically he's been playing basketball as his future and profession for like 20 years of his 25 years. Now, basketball is a lot easier on your knees than baseball is on your elbow. There is no motion you do or take in basketball that is more unnatural than a fastball pitch. That shit fucks you up. Now, obviously you can have whole careers with no problem, but it's much more unnatural than jumping and running and making little shimmies and moves. Now, of course, you can still get hurt in basketball easily, obviously. As a Mavs fan, I should know. But it's like Doncic had 600 pitches a week since he was 13, and he won championships. His legs. That's how I think Nico Harrison imagines Luka. I think Nico Harrison looks at Luka and is like, "You have maybe one more year of good basketball in those knees, in those legs, in that body." And that's not a knock like, "Oh, you can't be healthy at 26." So all these other guys are 27 or 26 and are healthy. No, those guys aren't Luka Doncic. Those guys don't have 80 bajillion pitches a day on their knees for their whole life. And so you get the Doncic you had against the Wolves, which didn't look anything like this. Now he does outplay him with his mind as well. This move with the hand pushing on him and then pulling it away so he falls, now obviously not a foul. Unless you want to count the original push as a foul, which they're never going to call that a foul. But the sudden pull away with the cut is over. Get cooked, you are dead. Doncic can't move. Doncic can't move like that. And you know who's been way better? Brunson. He's been the GOAT. Now, what I worry about with Brunson and what I worry about with the Knicks, let's get back to the Knicks. I don't like Tom Thibodeau. I don't like how much their starters have started, and I think that somebody's going to get injured. I don't know. That's what I thought was going to happen versus the Pistons. I thought the Pistons were going to come out and be really physical, and one of the Knicks was going to get injured. And I thought that's what happened when Jalen went down, but he got up. And he kicked ass. The Celtics, 4-1 was it? 4-2 versus Orlando? Yeah, whatever. Orlando can't score. Great defense, Orlando. Franz Wagner is not going to do it for you. I don't even really like Franz Wagner. I'll make fun of that guy. I think he's kind of an ass. He seems like an asshole a little bit. He reminds me of Alexander Zverev. Anyway, freebie. Have we gone through all of them now? We are going to get both these matchups. I think, now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Cleveland is easily my least watched contender. I've watched way more Knicks, way more Celtics, way more Warriors, way more everybody in this conference. I have not watched Cleveland a lot this year. I didn't watch a single one of their games versus Miami. I didn't watch a single Thunder game, but I've watched a lot more Thunder games. I have not watched that much Cleveland, but obviously I think that they're legit. I think they're going to beat the Pacers. Cleveland beats the Pacers is my prediction right now. I don't want to make another video, so I'll just make my predictions now. Cleveland beats the Pacers. I think it's 4-2. I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is overrated. I think they should trade for Giannis. I think that would be really funny if the Pacers traded for Giannis in the offseason. It would work for Giannis. It would be another from one white town to another white town. Anyway, Cleveland wins that. The Knicks-Celtics is going to be the GOAT. Knicks-Celtics is going to be a really good series. Now, everybody's going to be picking the Celtics. Rightfully so. The Knicks are 0-8. In the regular season, they were 0-8 against the Celtics, Cleveland, and Oklahoma City. 0-8. They did not win a single game versus the three teams that were better than them this season. There were only three teams that were like really better than them this season, and they were 0-8 against those teams. So that's not a good look. That's not a good look. But it's going to be a big one. Anthony Towns versus KP. Brunson on Tatum. Brown, was Brown going to get Brunson? Is Brown going to even play? I don't even know. Is Derek White better than Mikal Bridges? Probably. I think so. And Mikal Bridges cost you 4 first-round picks. This is going to be maybe the best series. Maybe. This is, of these two series, for sure. I'm going to say Celtics in 6. But it could be anywhere. I think if the Knicks win, it'll be 6 or 7 games. That's kind of the Knicks style. They kind of have what I call Moki Doki syndrome, which is like when you're up, you play worse. When you're down, you play better, which lends itself to game 7s. So maybe the Knicks take it to 7. I think if the Knicks win, it'll be like 7 games. They barely win, or it's 6 games. And there's just something wrong with the Celtics. I think if the Celtics win, the Celtics could win it 4-1, or it could go to game 7. Honestly, it could be anywhere from Celtics 4-1 to Knicks 4-2, and I would be like, I didn't think that was impossible beforehand. Before going into the series, anything can happen. I have no fucking clue. It's the toss-up. Thunder versus the Nuggets, that would be fun. But Thunder in 5, I think. I'm not doubting the Thunder. Thunder versus the Clippers, I also think Thunder in 5. So both the first seed matchups are not going to be close, I think, in the second round. And then Wolves versus Warriors, tonight will tell a lot. If the Warriors come out and smoke the Rockets, it'll mean that my conspiracy theory is true. It'll be proven without a doubt, beyond the shadow of a doubt, proof that my conspiracy theory is true, and I think the Wolves might be in a little bit of danger, but it'll be a good series. If the Rockets beat the Warriors in 7, or if the Warriors lose game 6 and then barely win game 7 against this very young Rockets team that's relying on Fred VanVleet and fucking Dylan Brooks. Şengün's been good sometimes, but he has looked very young. That's what I'll say about this series from the Rockets side. Jalen Green looked good in the game that Jimmy got hurt. So he had a little boost of confidence for some reason. So he scored 38 in that one. And then he's scored a bunch in this last game, which I think the Warriors weren't trying. And he scored pretty well in the game before, which I do think the Warriors were trying. And which the Warriors won. Right? And Jalen Green's scoring didn't matter. Şengün has looked very young. He's upset with himself. He's smacking his legs after mistakes. He's throwing little fits. He's you're stupid. He's just throwing little fits. He's kept his cool, of course. He hasn't lost his cool. He hasn't hit anybody or done anything really stupid. But he'll hit himself a bunch. He'll hit himself in the legs and just be like a kid. He looks like a kid when he does that. Jalen Green is... What is Jalen Green going to be? The narrative right now, the way Jalen Green looks right now is that he's good when he's playing against teams that don't care that much. In March, when half the people you play are just trying to tank for for a draft pick. That's when he's his best. That's what Jalen Green looks like right now. Now that could change. He could come out tonight, because again, it's tonight. It's going to be a big game. I'm excited for it. It's going to be good. It starts at 8 o'clock my time. That's going to be a good game. But I think the Wolves beat the Warriors or the Rockets. I think the Wolves will advance to the finals, to the conference finals. And that'll be Wolves versus Thunder. I think once again Anthony Edwards will be tired. Now, he did get through the Lakers in 5, but he got through the Suns in 4. And then had that insane series against the Nuggets, and he was exhausted against the Mavs, and they had no chance. Karl Anthony Towns shot 5% from 3, and Edwards was clearly out of his mind exhausted in all the games. So, if he beats the Lakers, he was trying his ass off against the Lakers. We don't want to lose to the fucking Lakers. And it looked good. Randall looked good. Gobert looked pretty good at the end. And the Warriors aren't huge. Now Draymond is a better defender than anybody that the Lakers have seen in the last like 6 years. I don't know if that's really true, but Draymond is going to be way harder for Gobert to play against and for Randall to play against. Because they're going to put Draymond on Randall, I think. Or Gobert, whichever one of them is in. Who else? Who's going to be a Kuminga or something? I don't know who the rest of the Warriors are, to be honest with you. But that's going to be a good series. I think both this series and the Knicks series, the Knicks-Celtics series, are going to be really good. And I think that this could be the Anthony Edwards playoffs. I know there was somebody who was saying like it could be the whoever playoffs, but I think that if you look at Anthony Edwards, if we look back on Anthony Edwards' career 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and we look at his early playoff adventures, I think we're going to be like, dang, that's kind of legendary. Last year, he destroyed Kevin Durant, one of his GOAT, his own personal hero. His own personal favorite player destroyed him. And then took on the defending champion Nuggets. I think they were the defending champions at the time, right? The Nuggets won that 2022. Or was it 2023? I really don't. No, the Warriors won 2022. The Nuggets won 2023. The Celtics won 2024. And now we're in 2025. The defending champs he took on. Nikola Jokic, one of the GOATs. Like, that guy could that guy is really fucking good. I feel like that guy is already top 10 players of all time, which is saying a lot in basketball. In basketball, saying somebody's a top 10 player of all time is really big. I think Jokic is that good. He took out them in 7 games in the craziest series, and everybody's emotions were running high. That's the team you were designed to beat, according to Jokic. Jokic said the Wolves were designed to beat us. That was one of Jokic's excuses, which was interesting. Maybe he's right. I mean, you are going to have to beat them to win the series, but it took everything out of the Wolves. But he did it. He beat Kevin Durant, his own hero. Then he beat Jokic, who is the current MVP and the defending champion. And then he lost in the conference finals to prime Luka with the Mavs. That was the best Luka will have ever looked with the Mavs. We know that for a fact. He's not going to come back and look better than he did then. It's over. At least for him on the Mavs, I think he's got like 2 years. If he doesn't win one in the next 2 years, it's probably going to look like he's not going to win one. That's my guess. But what the fuck? I'm insane. Or my predictions never come true. And then this year, he comes back and he takes out Luka. He gets his revenge on Luka. Anthony Edwards, the very next playoff series he plays after that series loss to the Mavs is versus Luka on the Lakers. And you know what? The Lakers are the 3 seed. The Lakers are even a higher seed than the Mavs were last year, bro. The Lakers are the 3 seed. The West is not that strong this year. There are clear weaknesses with almost every team in the West except the Thunder. And the Wolves come in, and Anthony Edwards takes out another Hall of Famer, Luka Doncic, and the King of Kings, LeBron James. Taco Tuesday. He wipes LeBron out. LeBron's got to foul me to stop my game winner. Give me that overhead cam. Oh, LeBron, nice stop on defense. You just smacked my wrist. Sit down. You guys are out 4-1. Anthony Edwards is the GOAT. Now imagine if Anthony Edwards comes into the Warriors series and he beats the Warriors. That would be crazy. That's what? Okay. 5 playoff series in his career. Let's go over them real quick. Go back to that. Oh my god, I'm out of pages. First page. Burnout Paradise. First page. Let's What was I gonna do? His 5 playoff series. 1, kill KD. Okay, that's a big trophy to get. That's a big scalp to take. Let's use this bigger pen. 2, killed Jokic. Obviously, you didn't kill him or whatever, but you know, I don't give a fuck. Killed KD. 3. Lost to Mavs. Yeah. He was exhausted, and Towns played was terrible. I don't really like to use that word that much, but he did shoot like 3 of 50 from 3, and Gobert was getting cooked. That was not a good series for the Wolves. They shit the bed. They played very poorly. 4, revenge on Luka. Whoops. Plus killed LeBron. The King. Taco Tuesday. 5. We have the potential to add to this list. Killed Curry, Jimmy, and Draymond. Look at that. What is that, 4 rings plus 4 rings? Is that how many they have? 4? That's as many as LeBron. That's more than KD. That's more than Jokic. Imagine if he beats the Warriors next series. Look at this kill sheet, bro. These are like, especially Curry, LeBron, Jokic, and KD. I put Jimmy up there. Jimmy's great. Jimmy's a Hall of Famer for sure. Draymond is also a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he has 4 rings. Jimmy has 0 rings. You could say that against Jimmy. But he's really good, and he's been the best player on his team. Like, he's carried his team to finals. His team shouldn't have made the finals twice. He got out of Philadelphia early, bro. Good for him. Or was it in Minnesota? Or did he get out of both of those early? He went to 2 finals. He took out Jokic, didn't he? To get to the finals? No. He lost to Jokic in the finals. But Jimmy's a Hall of Famer. Look at this kill sheet in the first 5 series. This isn't like... Who did we beat in the Clippers and injured? Like Doncic. Who does Doncic have? He has like... His biggest playoff series win was versus the Wolves. And the Suns? The Thunder? Really? The Thunder. Beating the Thunder last year, and that team had issues. The Clippers? Kawhi played 2 games. Doncic's whole career, he doesn't have this kind of kill sheet. Anthony Edwards, if they win this, if they beat the Warriors, that's huge. Now, I think that even if they beat the Warriors, I don't have them beating the Thunder. I think the Wolves make the conference finals 2 years in a row and lose. And then it's the Thunder versus, oh God, am I really going to make all the picks? Let's just go through it fast. I don't want to get too caught up. Knicks, Celtics, I picked the Celtics. Celtics versus Cleveland, I'm actually going to pick Cleveland. I think it's going to be Cleveland versus Thunder. Oh, man. I kind of am leaning Cleveland. That's my pick. I'm not going to think about it too much. I said I wasn't going to think about it too much. This video is already an hour and a half. I'm picking Cleveland to win the championship.